You're listening to the Renegade Blitz podcast, a podcast for Steelers fans by Steelers fans. Follow us on Twitter at Renegade Blitz, read articles on renegadeblitz.com, and like us on Facebook. And welcome back to the Renegade Blitz podcast. I'm Polk, joined by Chris Ward, Guthrie Rasmussen, and Zack Napolitano. Guys, how are we feeling? Another victory Monday for the Steelers.
Feeling good. 5-0.
Yeah, the Steelers just keep on stacking these wins and accomplishing feats that they made in the 70s when they were winning Super Bowls there, 1978, 1979. It's the first time the Steelers are 5-0 since 1978.
Definitely feels very surreal. It's just not where we're used to being, and it's to savor it.
Yeah, we're used to those classic Steeler letdown losses, but for the most part, any bad play has been overcome. And now that we get to this tough part of the schedule, it feels good to be halfway towards a non-losing season this early. It was a 38-7 victory over the Cleveland Browns that was dominating every single facet of the game, even the facets that the Steelers were not great at to begin the season. Guys, what are your total thoughts on this victory before we start breaking down the offense and the defense?
Yeah, I'm just happy to be 5-0. I mean, the Cleveland Browns absolutely walked into a buzzsaw at Heinz Field again for the 17th time. The last time the Browns won at Heinz Field was in 2003, and I don't think they're going to win anytime soon.
With Big Ben at the helm, just exactly what you said. Just all the build up on the media, saying this is it for the Browns. This is going to be their turnaround game. It feels good, and it's even me. I didn't have any doubts, but you're always nervous, no matter what, that could be the game. But with our team, I think with Big Ben at the helm, we had the best shot to win it, and we did.
Yeah, the Steelers just completely outclassed the Browns. They got after Mayfield. They could hit him 6 times, 4 sacks. I mean, they pull him late in the third quarter. Just dominant performance, especially that run defense too, which was unbelievable against the Browns, who came into Sunday with the number 1 rushing attack. So just all across the board, the Steelers just, another win against the Browns in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, my biggest takeaway was the defense cleaned up their third down issues. I mean, they only allowed the Browns to convert 1 third down on 12 attempts. That's an 8% conversion rate, which is insane.
Well, we'll talk more about the Steelers' third down performance, which again was a massive improvement over not only last week and the entire season. Overall for the defense, their best performance of the season by far, especially in the pass defense. The combined efforts of Baker Mayfield and Chase Keenum went 15 for 28 for 145 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. Mayfield was the starter, and 10 of those completions were his for 119 yards. He has the touchdown and 2 interceptions, the 1 touchdown to Rashard Higgins, who recorded his only reception on that catch. Mayfield was sacked 4 times and was pressured all game with 7 quarterback hits recorded. While the pass rush didn't sack Keenum, but he felt the same pressure as Mayfield in relief duty. For all the things you could say about the Steelers' pass rush, they couldn't draw penalties to begin the season. They finally got their first holding call of the season. Guys, what are your thoughts on this pass rush that's again showing out?
Yeah, they're still improving week to week. Again, not having a preseason with those games really messed things up, but it's not an excuse. All 32 NFL teams are in the same boat, and finally, someone threw Minka Fitzpatrick's way, and they paid the price, especially Baker Mayfield. I mean, that 33-yard pick six, putting the Steelers up 10 on the Browns early was awesome to see. And did anybody see Cam Hayward's hit on Baker Mayfield when they sandwiched him? That was incredible. Good, clean football. I mean, Cam wasn't lying when he said he was going to give out good, clean punishment.
Yeah, that was a big hit, and at that point, you kind of felt like, man, Mayfield, he wants to get out of this game. He wants no part of this. He just didn't look right the entire game. The Steelers, they got after him, and up front, across the board, Hayward, Tuitt, Alalu, then you got T.J. Watt and Bud Dupree. Bud Dupree had a monster game. He had 2 sacks. And on that Cam Sutton interception, man, T.J. Watt had an incredible get off on the ball and pressured Mayfield on that play. So it was just a great performance from the Steelers. Just like their front seven is like it's the best in the league. Like not even being biased, like it just has to be.
Yeah, it's a privilege to watch them every week and watch them get after quarterbacks because they definitely do it, and they're a very special unit. And we know Cam Hayward is upset for getting one of the sacks taken away.
Yeah.
So I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit, but it's just great to keep seeing them get after the quarterback. Like even though T.J. Watt didn't record any sacks, he was all over the quarterback all game, and that's what you want. You saw him jumping some snaps, and the Browns had a very predictable snap count going that game, and that was pretty great for those guys to get in tune to that.
Yeah, Bud Dupree actually had 2 sacks on that game, and T.J. Watt's first step is incredible. I mean, they basically destroyed the Browns' offense so badly that Odell Beckham was on the sidelines with no shoes on and his shoulder pads unbuckled with 8 minutes left in the game. That's Antonio Brown-esque.
Yep, that was fans too.
That was pretty alarming to see. Beckham's a great player, but man, if things don't go his way, he just he goes off the rails, and he starts to display that diva receiver mentality.
Yeah, and I want to get your guys' thoughts on. I guess we've all seen it on social media. One of the Browns reporters, Mary Kay Cabot, kind of a little bit of starting something with one of Cam Hayward's sacks, saying that he was trying to punish Baker Mayfield's ribs, and I'm just like, well, yeah, I mean, he's not going to go out there and just like gently toss him to the ground or anything like that, but also he's not going to do anything dirty like step on like a sternum or anything like that. I don't see the issue. I don't see why this is necessarily something that you'd have to like go shoot for a narrative with. There's nothing really to say there, and kudos to Cam for standing up for himself out there.
Yeah, Cam said he never said any of that. I mean, he said really what he said is he wanted to inflict good punishment and make him think about rushing, because Baker Mayfield tends to rush outside of the pocket. So every time Baker was going to run outside of the pocket, they wanted to punish him. And that's good, clean football. And when Bud Dupree was actually holding on to Baker Mayfield, Cam Hayward came in and hit him it looked like in the ribs area. And I mean, it was good, clean, fun football. There was nothing funny about it. And, he's right to call her out.
Yeah, if there's anything truly wrong with Baker, it's like he wouldn't have been playing the game. He had extra padding on. And it's like I personally think the amount of times he should have been hit, he should have been out earlier. As like at the whole game, I'm just like, get this man out of there. Obviously, he gave him, obviously didn't do well, but he would have probably been the best chance to win. But yeah, they didn't do a great job of protecting him. You leave him out there. You're not going to put a pillow down or anything, or just lay him down gently. You're going to hit him as hard as you can, like any other quarterback. You're not going to show any bias there.
Yeah, and Cam says he respects every player and never wanted to be known as being dirty. So, and Cam's not really known to be dirty.
Nope.
I mean, Perfect is known to be dirty, and those other players, it's very obvious, but not Cam Hayward.
And just from reading on Twitter, even Browns fans say that reporter, she kind of likes to stir the pot. Sometimes it's not always accurate in her reporting. I think Guthrie, you could point to that being in Ohio. Do you hear from a lot of Browns fans having issues with that reporter?
Yeah, I do. It's just, I see it all over Twitter. I don't hear anybody in town or anything say anything, but it's just about, it's on Twitter, you go to those Brown pages, like, the guy we had on our show on Locker Room. He said he had some words about, how she was. I kind of asked some questions, and he kind of said what you say. She just likes to stir the pot. Not a bad reporter by any means. I think you can respect her work, but sometimes she reaches a little bit like anybody, just to probably get clicks or something.
Well, one of the big things there, just to wrap up a little bit on the pass rush. This weekend on IFC, a channel that I've been on a ton of times during the pandemic, was another Rocky marathon, and one of my favorite quotes from Rocky IV is not Ivan Drago's "If he dies, he dies." It's whenever the trainer for Apollo Creed says, "Throw in the damn towel." So that's kind of how I felt when it came to the punishment that Baker Mayfield was facing against the Steelers. Again, was probably the most phenomenal improvement of the game. Minka Fitzpatrick's 33-yard pick six on Mayfield's first throw from scrimmage, and Cam Sutton setting up the offense at the 50, where they would score to make it 24-0 before the Browns would finally answer. The Browns' best receiver was Austin Hooper, 5 catches for 52 yards. Jarvis Landry had 3 catches for 40 yards, and of course, as we mentioned a little bit before, Odell Beckham was held to 2 catches for 25 yards. Also, with the pass rush, another thing they were affecting was just, Mayfield's comfort throwing the ball. Even whenever he did manage to get passes off, the Steelers were usually there to defend him. 7 passes were defended, with Joe Hayden leading the way with 3 passes defended. Guys, we've been critical of the Steelers' secondary this year because it seems based on the eye test and the stat test, it was the Steelers' most questionable part of the offense. What are your thoughts on the secondary performance in this game?
I was very impressed. They looked much better just by saying, that a tight end is their leading receiver when they have Jarvis and Odell Beckham Jr. on their team. That's crazy. Obviously those players are great and they may not have been 100% healthy at the time, but, just holding those guys even to that, it's pretty crazy, and I just want to thank the Browns real quick for giving us Joe Hayden, letting us have him, because we love him here in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I thought the secondary did a great job. Hayden and Nelson on the outside. I thought they did a great job against Odell and Jarvis. And I was glad to see it. I haven't got a chance to see the all 22 yet, but just from watching the TV, copy of the game, it seemed like they moved Minka around more. On that interception, he was in a cover one robber look, and he came down on that play, and Baker just never saw him, and he took that to the house. And Jared Dulac of the Pittsburgh Post said he mentioned that in his article today about how they moved Minka around more, and that's what we were saying last week on the podcast, that we wanted to see him maybe closer to the line of scrimmage, and just more disguises for him to make some splash plays.
Cover one robber. I see someone's been playing Madden this week. No, but seriously, yes, that's exactly what it was. Minka just ran up to the line of scrimmage. It seemed like a Troy Polamalu play, and then he just jumped the route between Hooper and was off to the races. It was just a great play, and that's what we were looking for out of Steelers' pass defense this week, was to see if Minka Fitzpatrick can make a play. And Steelers Twitter, some of them just fall in love with the stat sheets sometimes, but I think this game is a reminder that Minka Fitzpatrick makes people think, should I really throw this ball out here? So the important thing is to just be patient with some of these guys, because they're going to make the plays, and really Minka's interception just threw the Browns straight out of their game plan from the jump.
Yeah, he really set the tone there. For the onset of the game. Right here, he had the highest grade for a defensive player, leading up to the Monday Night Football games from Pro Football Focus with a 94 grading. So to all the Steeler fans that were worried about Minka, they should be glad if they're into stats that he had a high rating this week from Pro Football Focus.
Yeah, the problem is that it's the Minka effect. Nobody really throws his way. But when they do throw his way, he makes them pay. Every single time. So Minka Fitzpatrick is the last person to worry about on the Steelers team.
Well, let's talk about another part of the game that for the Steelers has been showing up all year, and that's the Steelers' run defense. Stout is the word you can use to describe them, holding Hunt, Hilliard, and Johnson for the Browns to 75 combined yards rushing. They shut Hunt down on a couple fourth downs and held him to 57 yards across 15 touches. He had 17 yards receiving on 2 catches, by the way. So, guys, what are your thoughts on how the Steelers defended running backs?
Business as usual. Just seeing them hold those guys to those numbers is, it's what we want to see, especially going into next week. I'm not going to get into it yet, but, especially going into next week, they just need to keep shutting down these backs, because this makes these quarterbacks rely on the pass, and then that's when our defense clamps up.
Yeah, didn't Hunt say this game was for Myles Garrett? The defense made a statement by shutting down the number 1 rushing offense in the NFL. And stopping the run is key. Yep. Going deep in the playoffs and quite possibly the Super Bowl. They also had Baker Mayfield running for his life all game long until they pulled him out of the end of the game. But that defensive line is stout. I mean, they're studs.
The Browns came into this game with a really good, like all the metrics and everything said the Browns were one of the best offensive lines in the league. The Steelers front really gave it to them and just completely smashed that Browns rushing attack. And they'll have a big challenge this week on Sunday against Derrick Henry, who is he's the best running back in the league. He's just unbelievable. And it should be interesting to see how the Steelers defend him on Sunday.
Sorry, it's like hopefully it's like Saquon Barkley. Hopefully it's one of those games, but we'll see.
Yeah, and as Zach covered it a little earlier to begin the podcast, one of the biggest improvements, well, really the biggest improvement in this game, and not only from a season's perspective, was the team's coverage on third down. The Browns, again, 1 for 12, 8% on third down, and on fourth down, just so you know, they were 0 for 3. The Steelers came into this game the worst on third down percentage. Actually, they were 5th worst. The Steelers came into this game 5th worst in third down conversions allowed.
Shows what we said all week. This, they tightened up that pass defense and they, filled those lanes really well. And, it's just, was it just the Browns or have they actually made an improvement? And that's just what we're going to have to wait to see in the weeks to come.
Yeah, and I think the biggest takeaway was the defense cleaned up, again, their third down issues. And, 8% conversion rate on third downs is incredible. And, on fourth downs as well, too, they stuffed the Browns, what was it, 3 times? And they stuffed them on all 3 times they tried to go on fourth down. So that's a great improvement.
Yeah, they fixed it in practice this week, and it sure paid off on Sunday as they, 1 for 12 on third down is just an incredible stat. And, like Zach mentioned, them going 0 for 3 on fourth down, and especially that 4th and 1 stop there was just unbelievable, to it. And, defensive linemen, they're just, you just saw like the line penetrate back for the Browns and just stuffed Hunt. Yeah, so just, across, the entire defense, it was a dominating performance.
Yeah, and I read on an article that the Steelers defense pressured Baker Mayfield about 40% of his dropbacks, 47% of his dropbacks, which is incredible. That's the most ever in the NFL. And he took 4 sacks and completed only 3 out of 7 passes for 45 yards when he was dropping back. So, they schemed for that. They knew what his Achilles heel was, and they went after it.
Yeah, and 2 of his interceptions came on third down too, and Dupree also sacked him on a third down play. So just no complaints here after a poor performance against the Eagles on third down. They really got things together, and they were excellent on Sunday against the Browns.
Yeah, I listened to Minka's press conference afterwards too, and he said that they played more man-to-man as well, and they schemed for that, and they wanted to make Baker throw out of the pocket more. So, it worked. He got his 33-yard pick 6.
Guys, I want to ask you this. The one thing with the Steelers defense, yes, it's been a little bit of trouble for them in the secondary. To begin the season, they were getting a lot of pass interferences, illegal contact calls, and they improved over the last couple of weeks since before the Denver game. And this week, it was the third down defense's turns. Like, how confident are you guys that the Steelers are going to be ready week to week and maybe even between halves?
Yeah, I'm more worried about the offense than I am the defense, to be quite honest. I think the defense is making their adjustments, and they're just, they're playing as well as they can, and they're doing as best as they can.
Credits to Coach Butler and his staff right now that they're doing great. It's adjusting, even at halftime adjustments when it doesn't look so good the first half. If they have a bad first half, then just know the second half will be much better.
Yeah, I thought, they made some they've done a good job with adjustments. You saw that in the first half, or the second half, I should say, against the Texans when Watson was doing really good there and scoring touchdowns, and the second half they just completely shut him out. And then, from week to week here, we saw the Steelers, a big improvement on third downs. So I think the defense is, clicking on all cylinders right now. And I agree with Zach, probably the offense, just a little bit more consistency and stuff. And, I was doing my winners losers article yesterday, and like there really wasn't a loser from yesterday's game. I just said maybe the RPOs because they were 0 for 4 in the game when Ben threw a pass, 0 for 3 in the first quarter. But offensively on third down they weren't as efficient as they were last week. But I mean, other than that, like I don't know about you guys. Like, do you see any big complaints? I mean, I know Guthrie, you mentioned McFarland. He messed up on that handoff. But I mean, other than that, I mean,
yeah, they didn't put him back in until the end of the game after that. They punished him for that. But I mean, Dupree was great. Dupree had 2 sacks, 2 quarterback hits, 2 tackles for a loss. He dominated the Browns. And Tomlin said they prepared for this all week with the battle in the trenches. And he said they played a football game. So hey, Coach Tomlin likes what he's saying. So.
I know we're going to get into the offense later, but yeah, the guys in the offense too are big winners. I think James Conner and Claypool, of course, who business as usual. But yeah, I don't want to get into them yet. Sure, we'll have a lot to talk about them later on.
Aside from the defense's performance in this game, the biggest story for the Steelers coming out of this game is the loss of Devin Bush for the rest of the season with an ACL tear. Robert Spillane filled in nicely with 5 tackles and 1 for a loss on a punishing hit to Austin Hooper on a tight end screen. Bush is a key cog to the Steelers defense. He's the communicator. He's calling the plays in the huddle, and the loss of his athleticism out there can negatively affect the Steelers as they go against teams that are more offensively capable. What did you see from Robert Spillane that makes you confident that he can fill in? He was second on the team in tackles for this game.
Yeah, I mean, Tomlin says they will take a platoon approach, it seems, in filling Bush's position with Robert Spillane and Ulysses Gilbert. Might be a good idea to look into getting a veteran linebacker as well. I mean, this hurts just like when we lost Brian Shazier. It didn't even – it looked like a freak injury, and, I mean, it was a non-contact football injury, and, I mean, he walked up the field with help. So at first I was like, thank God that he's walking. But I've seen people walk off the field when they have ACL injuries as well. And, I mean, Devin Bush played every snap of that game up until the point he was injured. And, he's a great communicator on the field, a tremendous player, and the Steelers will miss him big time.
Yeah, that's a huge loss with Bush there at middle linebacker. Spillane did a great job filling in. I'd like to see a larger sample size, but from what I saw on Sunday, he came in there and, got the job done. Bush is, I think I read that he played every snap so far this year and, up until his injury. And, they might have to go out and get a veteran linebacker, but we'll see what they do with what they got right now. But definitely a big loss. And I just all of us here wish him the best in his recovery.
Yeah, definitely. Would definitely wish him all the best. But about Spillane, it's just, like you said, we need a bigger sample size. Luckily, he's been with the team, for a decent amount of time. I think since last November. He's
2 years, just about 2 years. And he was on the practice squad originally, and then they bumped him up to the 53-man squad. But he's an undrafted free agent, and he came in and he was throwing some hits left and right. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Us Steelers fans, we love those big hits. And, those undrafted guys, it's like he's definitely got a chip on his shoulder. And, Tomlin obviously liked him. He picked them up off of Tennessee when he was cut by them. And it was fun writing about him. It was sad because he saw how many times he's been cut by teams, including us. So, and moved down to practice squads and stuff. So, I'm sure he's got that chip on his shoulder. He's looking to prove people wrong. And, yeah, we all wish him the best, in that position. It's a tough position to be in. But, hey, he looked good on Sunday.
I think they're better equipped to handle this injury than last time with Shazier. I mean, they had to bring, Sean Spence. Spence from, he was sitting on his couch and he came back and was like the starting inside linebacker. And I think Spillane's better than Dirty Red as far as an option as a linebacker, not just a special teams player.
He had some nice words to say about Titans and their head coach Mike Vrabel and Mike Tomlin. So certainly he's used to being around a system that really depends on the use of good linebacker play, and that's one thing with the Titans they've done pretty well.
Practice with the Titans before, but I thought it was interesting when they were asking him about Derrick Henry. He said that they don't really tackle in practice, so I guess to the ground. So he didn't really get to hit Derrick Henry. Well, now he gets to hit Derrick Henry next week, so that should be very interesting.
Zach, you kind of mentioned one name earlier that has been floating around as a possibility for linebacker depth on the Steelers. I know fans feel some type of way about this man, but Vontaze Burfict is available. There's also a couple other guys. I heard Clay Matthews is out there as well. I don't know if I'd want to sign these guys for depth, but in a season like this, it's sometimes you have to go, why not let it fly?
Yeah, definitely. But I trust Vince Williams to get Robert Spillane ready. I mean, he's a veteran. Vince has seen almost everything. So I have confidence they'll figure this out.
There's definitely a couple guys available if they do decide to go that route. But, Spillane was wearing the helmet, like those calling to get into plays. He looked like he was a really good communicator out there. I mean, with the full week of practice, who knows what we'll see from him this week.
Yeah, I don't know if we should bring in another Vontaze Burfict or something like that. Yeah, that dude's out of his mind. I mean, we don't need another Antonio Brown incident in Pittsburgh, especially under Tomlin. We're just trying to win a championship at this point. So
yeah, I don't want to get too much into this, but this team chemistry we have right now, I love it. I don't want to throw it off with anybody. It'd be so hard to bring somebody else in, especially a guy like Vontaze. Or even somebody like Clay Matthews, who's, whatever, just anybody. It'd be hard to bring in somebody with the chemistry we have. And it's just, we might as well roll with it. We got these guys who've been in the system. I say that we let it roll, see how it goes.
All right, guys, it's time to talk about the Steelers offense. And again, it was another good day. Ben Roethlisberger had 14 completions on 22 attempts for 162 yards and a touchdown. He was sacked twice and only had 3 QB hits registered on him. Myles Garrett had that 1 sack and a QB hit, in case you were wondering. Guys, what did you think about the performance of Ben Roethlisberger and how the offensive line protected him on Sunday?
Yeah, I think Ben played well enough to get the win for the Steelers. I mean, he made very few mistakes. And, now, Ben only had 3 deep passes over 10 yards down the field. And, I mean, the Steelers' rushing game was more productive than the passing game during the game. And right now, Ben Roethlisberger is sitting at 1,178 passing yards, 11 touchdowns, and an interception on the 2020 season so far. That's not bad for a QB coming off of major elbow surgery. So, but back to the game, I think he did pretty well. But I think that James Conner really took the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Ben just – he didn't. It's just crazy. We put that many points on the board, and he only threw 162 yards. That's just a testament to how well the team was playing as a complete unit, and Ben not making any mistakes. And that's exactly what he did. And I think he shut up some of the haters with that narrative that he can't throw downfield. He definitely did get the ball downfield when he needed to, when he saw the openings, and I think that was important for him to show. He needs to keep this going all season, and I think we're in good shape.
I think they're at a point where they just are. They want to win, and however they win, it doesn't matter about stats. They just want to win football games. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, that's why it's good that we don't have any of these locker room guys who are in the locker room that just demand the ball, like players like Odell, players like AB. Not saying they're bad players by any means, but it's just good having these team guys, and we'll get into him I think later, but guys like Juju who to sacrifice all the coverages, but this opens up stuff for all the rookies and the younger players. Well, they're all the same age, but all the players that are below him in the roster.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of the players are very unselfish right now, which is great. That's why they're 5-0 right now. So to be honest,
it was like a throwback Ben performance when he had Jerome Bettis there under Bill Cowher. He even said after his game that it felt like an old Bill Cowher offense. Only throwing 22 times, and he was efficient and everything. He had that 1 touchdown. You guys are right. He was throwing the ball down deep down the field and everything. And I think the Browns, they were taking his quick game away. he loves those quick slants and everything. The Browns, they were keen on that, but he was able to get the Chase Claypool and then down the sideline, which was a heck of a catch. And then the pump, Ben's pump fake to James Washington on that touchdown. So he was efficient, down the field, which was good to see. And Zach, you're right about James Conner. He was just the bell cow. He was running hard, breaking tackles, getting yards after contact. It was just a great performance by James Conner there. It was his best game of the year, I thought.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that rushing attack. Conner, 20 carries for 101 yards and a touchdown, his third 100-plus yard rushing game. Benny Snell had 6 carries for 17 yards and a touchdown. And Chase Claypool scored on another end-around touchdown near the goal line. It's fun to see that the rushing attack is getting it done in different ways. And again, you guys were saying it was Conner's best performance of the season. I noticed that he was more James Conner than Le'Veon Bell. He was making one cut and then hitting the hole. It seemed that maybe the narrative that we kind of had the last recap podcast where he needs a fullback kind of went away for a game.
Yeah, we talked about this, that just be the guy, hit the hole. You don't be who you're not. He's the guy who can hit that hole. And he's a good he's a good downhill runner despite his size, and I think he needs to stick with that.
Yeah, I think James Conner started the game out strong, but did you notice that there were like a few plays where he was tiptoeing on the line and he looked like he wanted to be Le'Veon Bell again? And he got past that and went back to his roots by playing as an old school running back. He's a downhill runner. He's not a tiptoe at the line kind of guy, Conner played tremendous yesterday, and it was good to see. But I also give credit to Kevin Dotson, man. What a steal the Steelers have got with him. As a 4th-round pick, he was keeping up with Jedrick Wills Jr. on the line yesterday. He was opening up lanes. I was looking at some stats on Kevin Dotson, and he said that in 25 reps against the Browns, Kevin Dotson only lost 1 rep in pass blocking, which is incredible. And through his career so far, he has had 92 passing blocking snaps and has only lost 2 of those. He has been tremendous for the running game and protecting Big Ben. He's been great.
Yeah, Colbert really, really hit it there with that selecting Dotson in the 4th round and then getting Claypool in the 2nd round. Just truly amazing. What he's been able to do in this season so far. And I was looking at Ben's stats, and the most yards he's had this season was 311 yards against Denver. So just he's doing a great job not turning the ball over. He has a 11-1 touchdown interception ratio, which is amazing for Ben. And I think that has to do with it's an unselfish group, and he doesn't have to worry about Antonio Brown being in his ear all the time and forcing the ball to him. Juju had two receptions for 6 yards yesterday, and after the game he's still having fun, going on TikTok and everything. So it's just great to see an unselfish group.
Yeah, I think we were joking back and forth about Antonio Brown. If he put up the stats that Juju had during that Browns game, and what did Juju have? 2 catches and 6 yards.
6 yards.
He would have tombstone pile drived Ben Roethlisberger after the game. It's a great team, and it's just a positive team, and it just looks like they just want to win, and they're reaping the rewards now.
Yeah, I saw some people on Twitter complaining about how he only had 2 receptions for 6 yards, messing up their fantasy team. He posted that TikTok video of him dancing. It
doesn't matter. As a Steelers fan, man, you win. A win is a win at this point.
Yeah, right. I think he was a fan of another team. The guy that mentioned that, I don't know who it was.
Even I drafted Juju, and I'm not even complaining about it. So it is what it is.
Have you been starting him or?
I have started him, but
okay.
And it's funny. My 8-year-old son has Chase Claypool sitting on the bench, and I told him to move him up immediately.
Yeah.
And I said, "So who are you going to give me for Chase Claypool? Come on, trade me."
If I was an NFL player, I would have a pinned tweet on there saying, "Spoiler alert, I don't care about your fantasy team." That's really what Juju Smith-Schuster should have on his Twitter page. Let's talk a little bit about the receiving game. It was once again led by Chase Claypool, but he was joined by James Washington as a big performer in the receiving game. Each had 4 catches, but Claypool edged James out in receiving yards, 74 for Claypool, 68 for Washington. But Washington scored the lone passing touchdown on a 28-yard pass after that interception by Sutton. Again, we kind of like open up a little bit into the receiving game, but guys, what are your thoughts on this? Again, there was not a lot of passes out there, but it didn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, only 22 passes by Ben, and that was a beautiful touchdown pass on that 28-yarder to James Washington. He did that out and up. Ben did his vintage pump fake, and he was wide open for the touchdown. And Claypool just continues to amaze every week. And that jet sweep that they've been doing has been really working well for them. He had a touchdown again on Sunday.
Yeah, I wish they didn't really include Ray as much as I would like them to, But, I mean, Claypool is tremendous on the deep ball. I mean, he looks like Martavis Bryant on a deep pass, but without the baggage. I mean, he was the most productive receiver per route basis during the Steelers and Browns. And, I mean, although he didn't have 4 touchdowns, he did average 3.36 yards per route for running. That's not receiving, running. And that brings his average to 3.49, which is a half yard more than any wide receiver in the NFL, which is pretty incredible. I mean, not only can he receive, but he can actually run the ball as well. So that we have seen. So I think he's just a tremendous player, and I think he's going to develop into a great wide receiver with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I understand with recency bias, everyone wants to go to Martavis. I'm saying he reminds me more of Plexico Burress than anything else. I mean, I know that's kicking a little bit old school, but I know that I see his potential being a little bit more than Martavis, which was great, but Plexico was just on another level, especially during his heyday for the Steelers.
Yeah, I think he's a lot stronger than Martavis Bryant was. I think that's the difference of it, and he's way more polished right now at this level than Martavis was when he first came in. So I think that it's just going to take him time to develop, and he'll be a great wide receiver.
Yeah, I agree that he's a lot stronger than Martavis. But as far as Plaxico, I think Claypool's faster though. So I think he's just the complete package. And I read this on Twitter yesterday from NFL 345. Claypool is now tied for the most touchdowns, which he has in 6, by a rookie wide receiver in the first 5 games since 1970. And one of those receivers is Martavis Bryant in 2014, and he joins the likes of Randy Moss in 1998. So he's in great company right now.
Yeah, and on to like James Washington, I think we haven't untapped his full potential yet. He's looking much better, but I haven't seen enough consistency out of him. Like, he had a couple drops, and he had 7 targets. He only got 4 of them, and granted, I think a couple of those were out of his reach, but sometimes he just bobbled it, and I was like, it just kind of makes me a little nervous. Like with Claypool, we saw 4 for 4. It's just I'm looking for James Washington to take that leap.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see when Deontay Johnson comes back how they're going to do the depth chart. I mean, Claypool is exceptional. I wonder if he goes back to being the 3rd wide receiver and Deontay Johnson to the 2nd. I'm not sure how that's going to play out. That should be interesting.
Oh,
yeah, that's a whole other discussion right there.
I think Claypool's taking a lot of, the reps from, he's taking the reps from Deontay Johnson, and so, I know they have got Ray McLeod in there a couple times, but I mean, yeah, that should be interesting to see how it plays out with what they do with Deontay Johnson.
And I don't think the Steelers really thought that he was that polished as he is on the field, so it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I believe Ray would be the one to go down if anybody. I think he would just staying ready. But I think you gotta when Deontay is healthy, and we've seen him last year, we needed the guy we saw last year on this team. It would take us to a whole another level having that receiving threat along with Juju. I think Juju should stay in the slot almost, and those two guys should be on the outside. But whatever, we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, definitely Ray McLeod would go down in the depth chart, but I mean, then you got James Washington too. I mean,
oh my gosh, I forgot about him.
I mean, you can only put so many receivers on the field at the same time.
Yeah, they're stacked.
Yeah, there's loaded.
It's a good problem to have, though.
Yeah.
And like we said, hopefully this is a first team where we won't have any issues. I'm waiting for that Juju breakout game, kind of that we saw in week 1. I think it's coming, and I think he deserves it. But just don't force it if you're winning games. Just keep doing what they're doing and spread the ball around. And
we kind of talked about it bits and pieces throughout the entire podcast, and that's the camaraderie in the receiving room. Other targets for the Steelers, Eric Ebron and the aforementioned Juju Smith-Schuster, they combined for 4 catches on 15 yards. But, as we were mentioning earlier, it seemed that anyone that was really ragging on Juju was, for the TikToks after the game. And so, guys, what's your thoughts again on this, just the togetherness of the Steelers locker room that we haven't seen probably since the 2000s? You guys gonna go?
I was waiting for someone to say.
Did we kind of touch on that? Because I'll just delete that then.
No, it's fine. I was just waiting for someone, but yeah, I could go. I agree. Probably since Hines Ward and Antoine Randall were there, probably is you have that big diva. It really blew up with Antonio Brown. Even Plaxico even was kind of he was a diva, but nothing's compared.
Did he shoot himself in the leg at a club or something like that?
Yeah, that was when he was with the Giants. But
something like that. Yeah. It's always something with these wide receivers, isn't it?
Yeah, and then Santonio Holmes, there was issues when he was there also. But yeah, probably since early 2000s you have to go, or somewhat, no, definitely Hines Ward. We'll put it that way. Since he was not a drama guy really. But yeah, it's great to see the receivers. Ben mentioned in his press conference last week about how he was so proud of Juju, how he's not complaining about he's not getting his touches, and he's proud of Claypool for he had that big 4 touchdown performance against the Eagles. So it's just great to see it on Selfish Group.
Yeah, Ben was saying that he was. When was it, after the Texans game, or which game was that? What he said that he was walking in the Eagles game.
Yeah, the Eagles game.
Yeah, he was walking into the locker room and he didn't know what the hell was going to happen with the with all his wide receivers, because he kept just feeding Chase Claypool, and he walked in and he saw that everybody was just happy and excited, and they were just happy about winning instead of all the statistics and everything else, and it just made Ben really happy to see that. So I thought that was an interesting story.
Yeah, that's definitely really encouraging, because I didn't even hear about that. Just having a receiver room that is happy for one another. They put themselves up. This seeing Juju on the sidelines, he's the biggest hype man in the world. He's the leader of that room undoubtedly right now, and he's doing a great job at being that leader.
Yeah, and all this issue about Juju being on social media, Juju being on TikTok. I mean, as long as the Steelers are winning, who cares, to be honest? I mean, if the kid, it's different from us growing up than it was for him growing up, because we really didn't have social media they have social media now. So it's just a different culture, and I don't think it's that big of a deal with Juju, as long as they're winning football games.
Yeah, it's not after a loss or anything. Juju, he just has that mindset of, okay, I'll get mine next week. I'll get my touches. I only had 2 receptions for 6 yards today, but, we crushed the Browns. So he's happy about that, which is, you don't see that too many from NFL players today, and especially from wide receivers.
Yeah, and what was it that Chase Claypool said on the Pat McAfee show after he had his 4 touchdowns? He wanted to just black out, but he couldn't.
Yeah,
I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting.
Yeah. That's Pat McAfee. That's a great podcast or show on YouTube to watch.
Yeah.
Always interesting. He had a lot of Steelers on last week.
Yeah.
Well, that's all we have for the offense. And guys, I want to get your final thoughts on the games. What would you grade the all-around performance of the Steelers, and who is your player of the game?
Yeah, I would grade the Steelers game against the Browns as an A game. Finally, not A plus, A. But I think they dominated in the trenches on defense, on offense. I mean, pretty much all aspects of the game on Sunday. And my favorite player of the game was James Conner. I mean, he finally looked like his old self by running downhill instead of dancing at the line. And I mean, he produced over 100 yards rushing and came up big for the Steelers offense. I think my runner-up would be Minkah Fitzpatrick. He finally showed up for the Steelers defense with that pick six at the beginning of the game to give them the lead up by 10.
Yep. For me, I would say, similar to you, I'd say like an A minus. It'd be an A plus if there was a shutout. But whatever, they still performed exceptionally. And I would say, like you said, I'd say James Conner undoubtedly is the player of the game. But to pick somebody different, I have to go with Mason Rudolph because he walked out of that stadium alive. He was 1 for 1 for 6 yards, had decent passer rating. But no, seriously, I would definitely say James Conner was the player of the game. Runner-up for me would be just I'll go with the defensive side of the ball. I would say, Bud Dupree with him and TJ Watt just being so disruptive.
Let's give him. Let's wait until Cleveland because Week 17 is up in Cleveland, and you never know. If the Steelers do well enough, I don't like giving a team off completely before the playoffs, but he'll certainly get some playing time up there, and that's going to be the true test if he can get out alive.
Yeah, I agree with you guys with James Conner as the player of the game. Runner up, I'll have Minkah Fitzpatrick. He really set the tone there with that 33-yard pick six to give the Steelers a 10-0 lead in the first quarter. It just, that set the tone for the game, and the Steelers never looked back from there. And then just like another guy, Bud Dupree, like you mentioned, had a phenomenal game, and Stephon Tuitt too. And they couldn't block him up front for Cleveland.
Well, for me, I'll give player of the game just to be different. Cam Hayward. He went out there and said he wanted to inflict good, clean punishment to Baker Mayfield, and it certainly played a difference into him getting out of the game a little earlier than he probably would have wanted to. I'll give him the player of the game. Guys, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that both owners of the Steelers and Browns had a phone call last week to make it clear that both teams that they won't tolerate on-field retaliation. I think the players really handled themselves great during the game, and that game could have gotten out of hand quite quickly. And I thought it was really interesting to see Mike Tomlin and Myles Garrett approach each other at the midfield line too, talk about each other's families. It was great to see that they could actually come together and solve this and figure all this out.
Yeah, that's a great final thought because it's bigger than football. All these guys have family. It's about protecting each other, getting to know each other, and I think that was really heartwarming to see those guys, talking on the field. Even during a pandemic, they're giving each other a big hug and ask about their families. It was just so heartwarming to see, especially after last season. And it kind of puts a lot of things to bed. Because, I do respect Myles Garrett as a player. Didn't like what he did to Mason Rudolph. But, he's a great player, and we're going to see him for years to come. So you might as well not hate him, but, hate to play against him.
Yeah, I think after that was a real ugly scene, obviously, last year in Cleveland with all that happened. The NFL didn't want to see any repeats of that. But I think my final thought would just be I've been reading some articles. Is Baker Mayfield like the true answer in Cleveland? Because Steelers, they put a blueprint out there on how to beat. I know he was playing injured and everything, but on our podcast with Jacob, he even said he doesn't do well when teams get in his face and get pressure on him, and his height's an issue too. He's not the biggest quarterback. He's been relying on their strong running game, getting out of the pocket on bootlegs and play actions has kind of been his game this year. So I think the Cleveland, they have a big question mark there moving forward. He's a good quarterback, but I don't know if he's a great quarterback that could lead them to like an ultimately, Super Bowl if they could win one ever.
Yeah, they need to protect him more. He was getting battered during that game. And also I think maybe like Sam Darnold, maybe he's just in a wrong spot on a team and needs to go to a different team, a different system. I don't even know why they decided to let him play with those injured ribs. I mean, it was very obvious that he was hurt during that game. So, for a franchise QB like they say he is, why would you put him out there like that? I guess he's just a competitor. And but you got to protect him at the end of the day. I mean, it's just one game.
Well, good vibes in Pittsburgh and good questions in Cleveland. That's all for us here on the Renegade Blitz. Next up is our preview of the Tennessee Titans game this weekend. Host to be determined. For Chris Ward, Guthrie Rasmussen, and Zack Napolitano, I'm Ty Polk. Thank you for tuning in to the Renegade Blitz. Thank you for listening to the Renegade Blitz podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Renegade Blitz, read articles on renegadeblitz.com, and like us on Facebook. Our podcasts are available on YouTube, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify.